Gail, the full sponsor of it, is with his wife Jean, who had surgery today. He had hoped to get here. He could not. Gail and his group has asked Richard Moore to speak here tonight. And Gail has phoned me and asked me to introduce Richard Moore tonight on his behalf. And that's why I'm up here. But my prayers and I go out to Gail. Gail's a great guy. It's unfortunate he couldn't be here tonight. For those of you that don't know Richard Moore, he has been at Lakeland Times for the past 7 years, has researched land issues extensively for the newspaper, and is probably one of the only investigative newspapers in the state of Wisconsin that has researched and investigated the Department of Natural Resources. He has written a book called The Inner School, Wisconsin, which will be available at the end of this if anyone's interested in it. And tonight, Concerned Citizens in North had asked Carl Gendrick to be here to open this up to question and answer after Richard gives his speech tonight. In his place, we have Pete Wagner. Pete Wagner is in charge of enforcement. He's up here in the front. He will be the one set up to enforce the new NR 115 rule when it takes effect. He'll be here to answer any questions when the speech is over. I'd also like to thank Woody and the Campanile Center on behalf of Concerned Citizens in the North for allowing us to be here tonight. With that, I will turn it over to Richard. Thank you.
It is great to see so many of you here to talk about my favorite subject, which is the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. Well, I can't complain. They made a living for me. A couple of notes. I also want to thank Woody and the Campanile Center for hosting this event, and everybody for coming out, Concerned Citizens of the North. There are a couple of notes I'd like to make. Since we figured that no one would really be interested in NR 115, we struck that part from the agenda.
Yeah, right.
That's a joke. The second thing I'd like to say is that at certain parts of my talk, you will see me just kind of slump forward and appear to go to sleep. I'm not asleep. I can't see, and that's the only way I can check my nose. So don't worry, I'm alive and well. I would like to follow up on Greg's introduction. I want to thank Greg for introducing me as well. There have been a lot of talk since NR 115 arose again, as it were, from the dead after 2 years of being stuck in the tomb at the DNR headquarters in Madison. And it seems that certain lawmakers, certain politicians want people to believe that if you're against this rule, if you have problems with parts of this rule, or if you have problems with the way the Department of Natural Resources operates, then you're not an environmentalist. You don't like water quality. You don't want clean water. You don't want to protect the water. You're an enemy. It's either or. It's a false dichotomy. If you're an environmentalist, you can't be for property rights. And if you are for your property rights, you can't be an environmentalist. That's a false dichotomy. For years and years, there has been history and tradition in this country that the small property owner was the good steward of the environment. They took care of their property. They were in the front lines of protecting the environment. That was in the old days, and perceptions have changed. But it didn't change with one man, and that's the man who's, at least one man who's the embodiment of that, and that's Gail Wolf, who isn't here tonight. And I wish he was, because he could tell you some stories about Manitou Shore as a dead pipe later. But Gail has been an environmentalist all his life. He stood in the forefront of the environmental movement. But at the same time, he's been very dedicated to his property rights. He's been very active in his lake association. And I've known Gail since I ran for the Assembly 11 years ago. And every one of those days, in those 11 years, he has fought the good fight against the Department of Natural Resources. Not because he doesn't like the environment, not because he doesn't want to protect water quality. He is advocating for water quality, believe me. But because he wants an agency that is run